Hello everybody and welcome to the first episode of our vanilla but ridiculously extreme Merciless Ultimate CIs 2.0 series. My name is Hjalte and today we're going to start with the setup for this series. Therefore, I've put a timestamp in the description if you want to jump straight in game. Now, if you've seen the original CI series, you'll know that this series came about in a bit of an odd way. And I have to admit that I might have gone a little overboard with the difficulty. So honestly, I'm not entirely sure that this playthrough is even possible, given how many limitations I've put on us, and the fact that we'll go below minus 100 degrees Celsius just in this first episode. I also suspect that we'll go beyond 200 degrees below zero sooner rather than later, which makes this the most insane playthrough that I've ever done, and it might actually be the most insane unmodded playthrough that you'll ever see. But if you do know of any vanilla 1.1 playthroughs that go more extreme, do let me know. I would certainly be curious to see that. Anyway, we're going to try and we'll see what happens. Before we go into the scenario though, I want to mention the rules of the playthrough, because that is one of the things that have changed since last time. First off, no organ harvesting, it's just too OP, that's overpowered by the way. No butchering humans. You might be aware that I generally don't have a problem with that, but I'm a man of extremes, so we'll add that to the rules, because humans are the best food source on CIs. In addition to that, we are not allowed to use any tainted clothing. While I am a fan of anything that gives you debuffs, because it leads to interesting choices, let's just make this as difficult as possible. Alright, let's have a look at the scenario. As you can see, I've blurred the custom scenarios, because I wouldn't want to ruin the surprise of the other projects that I'm working on. Like the first Ultimate CI's playthrough, this playthrough is built on Crash Landed. We are, however, going to start with considerably less than this. This is our scenario. Might have given something away in the name there. We're going to start with a single naked asexual colonist, who is rather limited in terms of abilities, but we'll talk about everything regarding our starting pawn in a bit. We'll be going with new arrivals, because this isn't possible to do as tribal. If you watched the original series, you'll know that we had a cold snap a day to keep everyone away. Well, this time, we'll kick that up a notch, and take 2 snaps a day instead. We also have a permanent volcanic winter, just for the hell of it. We'll only start out with 20 meals, and since that will only last about a season, we'll have to establish a sustainable food source very quickly. We get 5 units of medicine, just to give us a fighting chance against infections and illnesses. 20 components, which will run out very quickly, again putting pressure on us to obtain more. We'll start with 300 units of steel and more scattered around the map. I have, however, slightly reduced how much wood we'll get to force us to prioritize our resources very carefully. Let's move on to the storytellers. I'm not going to run through the differences between the storytellers today. Safe to say that Randy Random is the most difficult and in my opinion the most fun, so we'll be going with him. And since I'm a gaming masochist, we'll be going with Merciless, despite that it's now called Losing is Fun, but frankly I hate the new names. They're also impractical for video titles, so I'll keep calling it Merciless. Admittedly, I like to think that the creator of RimWorld, Tynan, has been watching my channel since he has added Digital Masochist to the description of Merciless. But let's not make my delusions of grandeur the topic of today's video. Finally, we'll choose commitment mode. let's move on to the world settings. First, we'll reduce the temperature to the minimum, then we'll increase the population slightly. That is unlikely to become relevant for us. I honestly just think the world looks very empty when you don't do it. Coverage is going to be 100%, and the seed is going to be Abraham. Here you can see that we'll be using 2 mods for this playthrough, neither of which should have any influence on the gameplay. Prepare carefully, which will let us design our colonists. And if you're a new RimWorld player, I strongly recommend using it because life is too short without it. You can find it on Steam. Choose Community, search for RimWorld, and then choose Workshop and do a keyword search from there. The other one is the Fahrenheit and Celsius mod, which is just for your benefit if you don't use Celsius. Alright, here it is, our cold world. And we're going to go straight to the South Pole. Right along this line here, between the sea ice and the ice sheet, there are several maps with an average temperature of minus 57.1 degrees Celsius. So again, if you want to play along, be mindful of the coordinates. And if you have found a colder sea ice map in 1.1, let me know because I love extreme conditions. Anyway, here it is. So the seed is Abraham, coverage is 100%, and the coordinates are in the bottom left hand corner. Now let's check out the advanced settings. I am sorry to refer back to the old one again, but I do want to say that we will be using a smaller map than last time. You might also have noticed that the Common Sense mod was missing, and the reason for both is that I've tried to eliminate whatever might have influenced the problem that led to the early demise of our last playthrough. It should also make raiders more likely to reach us, so we'll have a bit more fun with them. We'll also have to start in the summer simply due to how extreme the weather will be. So let's check out the factions of this RimWorld. We have 3 neutral factions here. First we have the Empire of Perfection. Well, they certainly don't seem to lack self-esteem, do they? Then we have Laeria, the purple one, which is an Outlander faction like us. And finally the Caxigo kinship, marked by the yellow teepee, which is a neutral tribal faction. In addition to those, we have 4 hostile factions, but I'm sure we'll get acquainted with them soon enough. So we do actually have a neutral faction that's reasonably close, or rather it would be under normal circumstances, but for this playthrough they might as well be on another continent. So, time to meet our colonist. Everybody, meet Esme. Esme is 18 years old, and therefore she only has a childhood backstory, and that backstory is budding artist, which gives her 5 points in artistic. The reason for that is simply that it is the least impactful backstory that I've found so far, particularly on sea ice, as we won't have the resources to make art before much later in the playthrough. She also has 5 points in construction, which is a necessity, since she otherwise wouldn't be able to build a heater, and that would end this series rather quickly. If you saw the original series, you'll know that K was gay. While I chose that for no particular reason, as it would be RNG, meaning random, whether it would be an advantage or not, the asexual trait is definitely a disadvantage. Because any straight males, bisexual or gay females will be continuously rebuffed by Esme if they reveal any romantic inclinations towards her, and that debuff stacks up to 5 times, giving a maximum of -20 to their mood. In other words, Esme is a heartbreaker, and that is more than a little dangerous under such extreme conditions. However, Esme herself doesn't have any health conditions, nor is she incapable of any type of work, although she is only passionate about 6 of them. Now, passions are generally much more important than skill points, not only because they increase experience gain, but because they'll give the colonist a mood boost when they're working with something they're passionate about. In this case, half of Esme's passions, shooting, medical and social, are going to be highly irregular, and therefore not something that will help her with her mood very often. I have chosen medical over cooking here, because we're bound to have plenty of medical issues over the course of this playthrough. Moreover, cooking won't be relevant this time around. Esme's most important tasks will be within the fields of plants and intellect, and hopefully down the line she can begin crafting a few things as well. Lastly, I've chosen social as one of our passions in case we want to get a bit of royalty stuff going, but we'll cover that if and when it becomes relevant. But all in all, Esme is a colonist who is incredibly unsuited for this environment and far below the average of the colonists that we can expect to see. So let's see this unwilling nudist attempt to establish a colony for herself in the most inhospitable place on the rim. Once again, here we are on sea ice, and hopefully Esme here won't suffer the same uncertain fate as Cable did. It's currently 39 degrees below zero, and since Esme is completely naked, that makes it 55 degrees below her minimal comfortable temperature. While it is exceedingly likely that this is the highest temperature Esme will ever get to experience, we will still need to work fast if she is to survive these initial minutes. You may also have noticed that it is currently the 2nd of December, traditionally considered winter in the West at least, although I specifically chose summer when we started, and that is due to the map being in the southern hemisphere. But let's not make this video into a lesson in astrophysics, physics, or just geography. I'm not entirely sure which field that lesson would fall under. But anyway, that means that our winter will fall in August. By the way, I've just paused the recording to set up all the tabs, but if you want to see my settings for this biome, you can check out episode 1 of the original series. Although I will apologize for especially the sound quality in advance, because it was the first time I ever tried to make a video. Hopefully it has gotten a lot better since then. Anyway, it's time to have a look at the map. We have a chunk here that is reasonably close by. We also have a polar bear here. Predators leave when the temperature falls below their minimum comfort level, which means that we shouldn't have a problem with any predators on the map. However, that doesn't mean that we can't create one, but we'll come to that soon enough. We have 218 units of steel here, again fairly close by. Another chunk over here that I'm guessing we won't be able to get near till at least next summer. Another 238 units of steel here, 3 survival meals, another chunk down here, and we have another predator, an Arctic wolf, but it is pretty far away, so I doubt that we'll see much to it. Next to it we have another 4 survival meals, so we may lose 1 or 2 to that wolf. There's nothing up here in the northeastern corner. Let's see if we have any other animals. A snow hare, close by too, but that might actually be close enough to the bear to get eaten, so we don't exactly have an abundance of food on the map. However, most of the steel is fairly close by, which means that we won't be stifled by the lack of materials, at least not in the first few days. We do have 214 units of steel up here in the corner though, and that's going to be pretty difficult for us to reach. And I believe that is it. We will be building a 3x4 without corners to start with, because that is sufficient to count as a room in RimWorld. Corners do, however, provide a bit of insulation, but time and the preservation of our resources are currently our primary concerns. By the way, those room dimensions are chosen because they are the absolute minimum we need for the two purposes that we'll be using the room for. We'll be building a wooden door, partly because it's faster to build, so it will increase Esme's immediate chances of survival, and partly because steel is the more precious resource to us right now. And now we can put up the wind turbine. Because turbines can't run properly if anything is placed within those white bordered rectangles, we need to place that 3 tiles further away, which will make sense later on. Then we'll put down some power lines. Note that there is no reason to make it longer than this. Okay, it's time to see what Esme is made of. Alright, I'll just unforbid everything around here, and then Esme will start hauling the wood. We are going to forbid the power line here, otherwise Esme will insist on hauling steel to it while she builds her new home, which will cost us valuable time. Now we will be caravanning a lot without leaving the map in this series, but I'll be cutting it out since it's not exactly the most riveting part of the game. It's worth noting that I haven't picked up the rifle because it will reduce how much else you can carry, and we don't need it yet. So let's start with the wood, then we'll grab some steel and get started on building. Let's just check on that rabbit, because if it comes close, you know, rabbit is delicious. Esme can carry 65 units in her hands and another 87 units of wood on her person, although I'm not entirely sure where she's putting them right now. "70 units of steel on her person, and we'll just have her bring the rest a bit closer. But she isn't walking home without a full load. And that's an additional 65 units. Alright, we will just haul the components now, although that isn't strictly necessary. Then Esme will get started on the door and the fire, because the door is the most complex to build. Now you generally shouldn't be in caravan mode when you build, because it makes your pawns do stuff like this. But we want to store our components indoors, so we'll have to settle for this at the moment, because otherwise you'll try to drop the components off in the storage zone. Alright, she went inside on her own, so let's see if we can get her to drop them off without being annoying. No, apparently not. That warning means that Esme has gotten serious hypothermia, which was expected, but it will decrease her manipulation further and therefore increase the risk of barges. Come on Esme, you can do this. If she messes up again, it will likely kill her. We don't want to use our precious medicine for frostbites, which you'll get frequently, so we'll set Esme to doctor care but no medicine. However, we won't allow self-tend yet, because we don't want her to tend to herself before she has finished building a shelter. There we are. Esme's humble home is finished, and she'll get warmed up, but we are going to make the best possible use of the hours that we lose to that. So we will schedule her to sleep and wake her up once her hypothermia is gone. We'll just prepare a bit for when she wakes up now. Three hours later, Esme is ready to get back to work. She is going to start by hauling steel that is a bit further away to make the best use of the 4 hours she has before the first snap hits. Now that she's back, we'll have her haul steel to the heater and then let her wait out her hypothermia. Here you can see her insistence on building the power lines, but we have all the steel we need for the heater, so we'll just have to drop that outside and come back to her in a few hours. Esme didn't want to sleep this time around, but she has been getting in some recreation, which should help her keep the mental breaks at bay. And there we have it. The first cold snap of this series, and we can expect the temperature to drop another 15 to 20 degrees as night also sets in. But before Esme goes back out, she'll just finish building the heater. At this point, I'm strongly considering making a long distance haul for the 4 meals down here. However, the 3 meals we had nearby has become 2 because the rabbit has eaten one of them. So there might be a bigger need to get them now, because it will eat another one tomorrow. Alright, so Esme was going to collect those 4 meals, but I've decided against it after all, because of how much time we will lose to her hypothermia. Tomorrow we can already expect it to be so cold that the fire can't maintain 16 degrees Celsius, at which point Esme wouldn't be able to get rid of her hypothermia, so we need to get our heater going. But first we'll collect those 2 meals and kill us a rabbit. Alright Esme, time for some target practice. Hopefully you won't die to hypothermia before you can kill it, which sadly is a very real risk, and it has happened to me before. Proximity is key if she is to hit it, given that she has no skill points in shooting. Very nice Esme, load it up. And her hypothermia is only at 11%, so she'll be hauling some steel as well. Esme just became a major break risk, which is most likely due to being hungry. Yeah, she's ravenous, and that gives her a -12 mood debuff. So once she gets back, she'll get something to eat. I doubt that it will work because it will get too cold for both the wolf and the bear very quickly, but we will leave a meal outdoors to see if we can draw them closer. We will also keep the rabbit indoors for now to prevent deterioration, as it might have to lay outdoors for a while. But it's time for Esme to eat, and then she'll get a few hours of sleep. After a short power nap, Esme is ready to continue working. And I believe it's time to do something stupid. I do want to be clear here. I unequivocally do not recommend that you do what we are about to. But given all the limitations to our playthrough, we will have to take some risks. And if it backfires, we will just have to start over. So let's go poke a bear. Hopefully we can sneak up and either wound the bear enough that it will bleed out, or get it to turn manhunter. Well, now that we are venturing out there, note that the temperature has already dropped below minus 60 degrees, and we're going to pick up the meal we left behind before. We're also gonna fill her pockets on the way with some steel, because it won't decrease her movement speed. Now if you do like this and let it hover over the bear, we can see Esme's chances of hitting it, as well as its chances of turning manhunter. And let me reiterate, this is not a good idea. Good hit, Esme. But we'll need at least 2 to put a timer on it. Oh, that's an excellent hit. Wait, what? Holy da-da-da. Esme, you are a killer. That's a perfect hit. I don't think I've ever had that happen with a colonist that only had 0 in shooting. On one of the large creatures, that is. Like a rabbit, it happens occasionally, but a bear? No way. That's like shooting a from bow and not having it turn manhunter on you. It almost never happens. And this is a first for me. And I have a ridiculous amount of hours on the rim. Alright, well, I was just pulling your leg about this being a bad idea. You should always walk up to every bear you see and shoot them at point blank range. That strategy will never go wrong. I still can't believe it. Well done, Esme. You are very quickly becoming proof that you should never underestimate people's abilities. You may survive this frozen hell yet. Esme has just gotten up and she'll relax for a bit, because her hypothermia isn't gone yet. We have enough steel for 2 turbines, so let's get started on that. Because our little incident with the bear took up a little more time than I had hoped. And it is very important for us to have 2 turbines, because they will always keep a single heater running even when there is no wind. And that is going to be essential for us. We'll just put up a storage zone here and haul things there to save time. We'll also need 4 components. So it's time to caravan again. Alright, I've already queued up what we want Esme to collect, but we have also hit minus 70 degrees Celsius, and the fire is having trouble maintaining the temperature inside. So Esme is going to have to finish the first turbine in 1 run. And we just have to pray to Randy that she doesn't screw up the construction. Which is frankly quite likely. Her hypothermia is increasing rapidly. And we have the first event of the series. Chunks of a spacecraft have impacted nearby that could be very good for us. Apparently Randy didn't expect us to be this quick, so we will just have to wait for it to actually touch down, but it looks to be 2 chunks at the moment, which is quite good. She's almost there. And Randy sent us 3 chunks. That is excellent. It is pretty far away though. Well, it's not, but 10 tiles away from our base is far when Esme is naked. Okay, almost done. And just to be clear, we have been pretty lucky here. Her manipulation is all the way down to 28%, and she has somehow managed not to botch the turbine. Esme, you continue to amaze me. Notice that she isn't seeking a safe temperature, but running for food. That's because there is nowhere with a safe temperature for her. So we need to get these power lines down pronto. I'm not sure how many we'll need for the heater to connect, so we'll just stop when it does. There we are. And Esme's hypothermia is at 58% and she'll be downed at 62, so it's going to be close. That got a little too close for comfort, but I suspect that Esme is going to be constantly on the verge of dying for the foreseeable future. But for now, she'll tend to that frostbite and get some sleep. Alright, Esme is ravenous now. However, we are going to push her and make the best possible use of our time, so she won't get to eat before she has to wait out her hypothermia again. And because she only just can't carry everything in her hands for the second turbine, we will have to caravan again. She is carrying a little more than we need, but that's fine. Let's also check on our trophy up here. The polar bear is dead. It's also not missing any body parts, which will give us the best possible yield, so that's simply perfect. Alright, it's about time for Esme to get inside, but you will bring the extra steel and the wood back with her. Drop that off and collect some more wood, partly because it will deteriorate outdoors, but we will also need it soon enough. Only 0.65%, that's nothing. As you can see, we've also gotten another snap, which has sent the temperature below -80 degrees. So it's time to finish that turbine, because our fire will burn out in about 12 hours. At which point we'll also need an additional heater. Now, malnourishment isn't good for building, but it should be gone in a moment, so we'll take the risk. Excellent work, Esme. Correction, the fire has 14 hours left. Once again, Esme will have to wait for her hypothermia to dissipate before she builds a heater. And from the look of things, she has wisely decided to pray to Randy while she waits. Alright, it's time for Esme to finish our second heater, because the temperature has already hit 100 degrees below zero. So that's about 18 hours in. Starting this playthrough might have been a mistake. But that also means that we won't be deconstructing our campfire anytime soon, as it will provide us with a backup. There we are. and we'll just set that to 20 in the hope that it'll be able to run on low power usage, at least till the fire goes out. However, there currently isn't enough power to keep both of the heaters running. Alright, we have 82 units of steel here, but it's very close by and we can get it when it gets colder. So we basically have 137 units of steel stored away. And the only other steel that we could probably retrieve is up here, and there we have 238 units. So that will require 2 trips. However, we have another snap in 7 hours, and there's no way that Esme can make 2 trips in that time when she has to get warmed up in between. And it will most likely be too cold after the snap hits. So we're going to do things a little differently. We should probably have dropped the rifle just on principle, but it will still be 2 trips, so it won't make a difference this time. Alright, 24%. So this is as far as we're gonna hold that. But we should both be able to survive and get the rest all the way back before the 4th snap hits. Cargo parts. Seems like Randy may have answered Esme's prayers. Well, didn't I say that too quickly? Randy's just taunting us. There's no way Esme would survive that trip. And it's mega slough wool. Oh, you bloody beastar. 60 units of it. So to recap, Randy has just given us one of the warmest materials in the game, and we will have to stand by and watch it deteriorate. He is heartless, that one. But I think it's time to end today's double feature of an episode. So Esme has managed to build a little shack that she can call home. She's also built 2 turbines and 2 heaters. Collected 375 units of steel beyond all the steel that we've already used. And of course, showed that she is a master marksman, or rather woman. So I think that she has been rather productive during these first days on sea ice. If you want to find out what happens next, click the subscribe button, and if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, it'll be much appreciated. Thanks for joining us.